Born in 1913, Peter Bloom was a key personality towards the development of education as we know it today. He grew up in Pennsylvania with his parents, who, as Jews, had fled a discriminative climate in Russia. In 1935, he graduated from Pennsylvania University with a bachelor's and a master's degree. He then moved to Chicago, having begun work at the University of Chicago in 1940 as a member on the Board of Examinations. 2 years later, he graduated from the university with a PhD in education. He remained working at the Chicago University as an examiner, then an instructor in the Department of Education. In 1970, he was appointed as a Charles H. Swift Distinguished Service Professor. This role placed him as an educational advisor to many nations such as Israel and India. Between 1948 and 1993, he was the author or co-author on 18 books. One of his most significant books was Taxonomy of Educational Objectives, Handbook 1, which was published in 1956. This book introduced his taxonomy theory, which would become instrumental in education. He was an optimist and had the idea that education was to realize human potential, and an educator should guide a student to make the potential possible. His taxonomy model contains 6 levels. Each level can only be reached once the previous ones had been, and each level grows in complexity. The levels are remembering, understanding, applying, analysing, evaluating, and finally creating. This method is used by many Australian teachers and branched into his think aloud and recall methods that he used to see how well students were retaining information. Teachers often use this in class brainstorms or asking students to repeat information back. Bloom was interested in providing a useful and practical tool that could be used to aid students in reaching their highest potentials. His other work with Lewis Broider focused on how students retain information and their thought patterns. This aids today's educators in understanding students with more depth and the ability to adjust their teaching to suit the students. This way of thinking is why it's so significant to myself as a future teacher. As a student, I often struggled with the note-taking way of teaching and didn't retain much information. I want to become the type of teacher that can identify a student that needs a different approach and ensure that they are able to reach their potential as much as any other student. There were no significant political or social climates at the time that had a great influence on him, but it could be considered that the time his parents experienced in Russia and the discrimination they faced encouraged him to find a method of teaching that gave students an equal opportunity to reach their potential.